Hello everyone and welcome to this Tuesday Player Spotlight. The player that we've decided to spotlight this week has been the player Tim, which I believe could use a little bit more love in this community, especially the English community. He's actually very extremely well known in the Chinese community. He's got one of the largest streams in China. And in this particular game, he's playing against TheViper. This is the Masters of Arabia 1 Finals, game number 4. And in this particular game, he's playing under the nickname Kiss BB. Fiage is spectating. Then I don't think we have dedicated spectator mode back in 2012. And he's playing against TheViper, who of course is TheViper. He's always been unstoppable in tournaments, whether that's 2012 or whether it's modern day. So this is certainly a tall task for Tim to step up to this challenge. Tim has been around since 2002 though, so he's certainly got a lot of game experience with him. And in particular, that's hilarious, Leo. Someone called Leary to watch this. In particular, the theme that I want to stress about this particular game, each of these 3 games that I'll show you has a particular theme to go along with it. The theme I want to stress with this game is about efficiency. And what exactly does efficiency mean in Age of Empires 2? Efficiency means taking good fights, not losing units when you don't have to, building the right army composition that pays itself off in value. It means not over-investing into military when it's not useful for you. And it means, in some situations, not wasting gold. And there's other ways that efficiency will come into this game, and hopefully we'll see that as the game progresses. And I'll be able to highlight that for you. But Tim is a player that very much prides itself on becoming a very efficient player. So let's take a look at the civilizations first. This is a Spanish war. This is game 4. I won't tell you who wins this series or who wins this particular game because, again, I'll throw in a loss into the series just to keep you guys honest. And yeah, this is a highly important tournament at this time in 2012. And they're playing a Spanish war. Let's take a look at the resources. So Tim's map, he's got a wood line to the right side of the map. It's a fairly decent wood line, however, his map is fairly exposed. As you can see, 2 forward stones, forward berries. It's very difficult to wall this. Very difficult to wall the front. We see TheViper going to take a boar just as Tim was about to reach the boar, and that's very unfortunate for him, so that's going to throw off his build a little bit. And, so, ignore the name Fiage, by the way, he's just spectating. Tim is actually playing. But Tim sees the boar of TheViper, and he's going to lure that back. So both players going to lure back their boars. Certainly this is a very serious tournament. I'm sure there was some money or some boobly premium or whatever was on the line. Not to mention their egos. And this is pretty funny. TheViper is going to try to even block the boar just as he's luring the boar of Tim. However, oh boy, oh no! So the boar is going to walk back. And Tim is going to have to lose a little bit more HP on trying to get that boar, unfortunately. Gonna hit one more time. It actually takes 2 hits for it to run and chase your scout, I believe. So we'll keep an eye on that. And he's going to take another hit from this boar. So not a great start from Tim. We've seen how bad his map is at the very beginning. It's very open. He's having a little bit of trouble luring this boar. Let's check how he's doing at home. Lured his firstborn to his town center. So if this boar comes back, it'll be a bit early. Meanwhile, let's take a look at TheViper. Viper's lured his second boar, so it's also a little bit early, rotting a little bit. Take a quick look at TheViper's map. It's also extremely open. Got a wood line in the back, gold in the back, which is on a hill, unfortunately. So neither player has a particularly good map, and stones in the front part. That's very important. In the Spanish War, where sometimes you like to get conquistadors to go for a tower rush. Boar is running back once again. Luckily, he didn't take a hit there. Yeah, boar was easing in this time with scouts only doing 10 damage to the, with boars only doing 10 damage to the scouts. So this is classic Age of Conquerors. Luckily, these 2 civilizations haven't changed too much in the recent balance, so you can pretend like you're watching the newest balance patch or whatever. And yeah, so their food economy's been throwing off a little bit. They'll have to certainly readjust to that. In the Spanish War, there's a few options that you like to go for. Dark Age Rush was certainly a very prominent strategy at this time in 2012. Men-at-Arms, a little bit less so common, but sometimes Spanish like to go for Men-at-Arms and Towers. Dark Age Rush and Fast Castle. Fast Castle Conquistadors or a classic Scout Rush are the options for the Spanish. Archers are particularly not a great option for the Spanish because they don't get the crossbow upgrade, and there's so many other strong options for the Spanish. So they really don't like to have a closed-off map, that kind of play style with archers. That could be one of their weaknesses in Feudal Age. The Vipers clicked up on a nice 21 population. It's almost as if we didn't have all that shenanigans in the beginning. And he's going to be a little bit faster up to the next age than Tim. Tim should be clicking up fairly shortly. He's going to add one more villager, so going to go up fairly late on 23 population. This might provide a window of opportunity for the Viper if he wants to go scouts and do a little bit of early damage. Let's take a look at Tim's scouting. Has not seen too much of the Viper's map. Does know it is fairly open though. The Viper has scouted most of the major resources of Tim's map. Doesn't see quite the wood line. I'm not quite sure why I ran around so much here, but either way, most players can see most of the essential things that they need to do. Tim is going to build a lumber camp on the right side. He probably should wall here if he wants that lumber to stay safe, but the efficiency should be pretty good, whereas the Viper, his efficiency is not so good. He's got 4 villagers on each side. They kind of bump into each other. A little bit of advantages and disadvantages from each player's map. Tim is now going to see the gold here, and the Viper's most likely just going out to deer. It's a little bit of a far lure, in my opinion, but maybe he'll decide to place a lumber camp here, drop off the resources for it later. Here we go. That's that early stable. 3 Spanish villagers building a stable, so certainly this will be a very fast scout rush, and something Tim has to be very wary of. Now, in this particular game, I've chosen not to highlight the theme that Tim does like to wall a lot. We have another game to demonstrate that. However, you will see some of these different themes hopefully come across in other games that they are playing. And Tim very much likes to wall a lot. So here you go, barracks coming up. And let's see what Tim decides to do. He's obviously not going to go archers, so he's probably going to go with a spearman and some scouts of his own. And let's go over to his point of view since he's the star of this particular series. So there we go, stable coming up. Now, it has to be said that he's at least going to be down 1 scout. The Viper's extra aggressive here, bringing forward a spearman. What the spearman can do is help to essentially put on extra aggression here. The spearman can battle the spearman of Tim and essentially cancel that out, leaving the scouts to be able to do damage to the villagers. Now Tim, he's behind. He's going to try to wall up a little bit to make sure he doesn't take too much damage. Now remember, his berries are on the front. These are very exposed. And here comes those 3 scouts. They should be okay due to the spearmen. However, this is where the 2 spearmen of the Viper come into play. They can attack the spearmen of Tim. And now these berries villagers will have to run back, or he's going to fight. Actually, this villager getting very low. Very low. 8 HP, 4 HP, and he's down. And those spearmen are distracted. So already, 1 villager kill from the Viper. He's got a military advantage. It's 6-4 currently. And it's going to take another spearman right there. Viper taking a slight hill advantage. And he's fine with this. He just wants to cancel out those spearmen. As his scouts try to do a little bit more damage, these villagers are already weak. And it looks like Tim is not going to be able to take his berries. Now the Viper going onto the wood line of Tim might be able to trap that villager. Instead, it's going to attack the scout. Going to take another scout. Maybe he could take the villager. So already KD ratio 3-1 in only 13 minutes in this game. That's fairly good. Spearman getting mauled by a wolf, unfortunately. Taking a look at the Viper's base. This is classic Spanish. You do a scout rush. You don't want to invest into archers, so you seed more farms. And hopefully go up to the next stage quickly and either go into conquistadors or knights. A lot of spearmen out for Tim. Playing very defensively. And this is something that I wanted to definitely want to highlight. Tim is behind in military right now. And he doesn't believe he's going to be able to catch up or do enough damage here. So he's going to discontinue scout production. And these are risky moves. I can't tell you, based off my knowledge at this particular point of the game, whether this is a good decision or a bad decision. What I can tell you is that, you know, it's certainly a very, it's a decision he's thought about. and decided that scouts are no longer going to be useful, so he's going to save the food there, try to be efficient with his food. Another interesting thing, he's actually chosen to go with an archery range as Spanish. And this is not a very typical move. 2 archery ranges is very untypical of Spanish. What Tim is going to see is that his opponent is moving over to stone. Now, the Viper's playing extremely greedy here. Sometimes he can do that. And if he wanted to go for knights, it would be a safer option. However, Conquistadors will be the stronger option if he gets his castle out. So he's going to take some stone, just going to defend with some towers, and hope that's able to defend from the aggression of Tim. So Tim, going to go with Spanish archers. Now, what you have to do with Spanish archers, your opponent is probably going to go for a faster castle age, try to get those conquistadors out. You really have to do the damage with these archers because those archers and those skirmishers are going to be very useless against knights and conquistadors in the castle age. So you 100% absolutely have to do damage with them in the feudal age. And it's going to take some time. He needs to mass up a few archers before he can move out. By that time, the Viper may already have some towers in his base and going up to the next age. So this is a risky decision from Tim. And certainly if he loses all of the archers, it's going to be a lot of wasted resources for him. And let's see how many he decides to move out with. The second mining camp onto the gold. Tim is now fully walled. He feels nice and safe. Likes to move out when he's nice and safe at home. Going to bring his 3 spearmen so they help protect the army. And this is his scouting at the moment. Probably going to go with the stone first because that's the most exposed. The berries are probably already exhausted, but maybe there's a farm there. And the gold and the wood in the back is particularly exposed. So perhaps because the Viper's map is so exposed is why Tim has decided to go with the strategy. He was, of course, a little bit behind at this particular stage in the game. And there the Viper goes, up to the castle age. Another tower coming from the Viper. I'm not sure 2 is necessary for this particular stone. Obviously, another tower would be nice, maybe for the farms or something along those lines. Quick walls coming up from the Viper. There's actually a little hole there, so quick walling not quite there. And right now, Tim doing basically minimal economy damage, idling 2 farms, maybe 3 farms. 4 farms. But remember, this is quite a bit of investment from him. So Tim's just going to be content right there. And going to make his way over to the lumber line, forcing more towers out of the Viper. The Viper will still be able to get a castle out eventually. However, the towers will delay him a little bit. But certainly he needs to be able to defend from this aggression. That's a little unfortunate. Going to lose an archer or 2. However, at this stage, it looks like the archers may have paid themselves off. The Viper is investing more into towers. He's had a few of his farmers idle. Not the best, not the worst decision from Tim. But it has paid himself off and maybe bought himself a little bit of time to go up to the next stage with a stronger economy, hopefully. Yeah, Spanish archers. Something unique. You don't see very often for good reasons. Let's switch back over to the Viper. The Viper is only at 300 stone. He could either drop a siege workshop, drop the town center, or just wait for a castle. So we'll see what he decides to do. More archers from Tim. We'll see how long he continues on archer production. I would bet you right now he has actually cut off archer production. Yes, he has. And is instead adding a stable to go for a much more typical Spanish castle age. So if you think of just how resources are distributed, as far as Tim's gameplay so far, he's made a few scouts, decided they haven't really done anything for him, so he's discontinued them. Then went to 2 archer ranges, did his damage, discontinued archer production. And now he's going to go into knights. So he's basically made the army that he needed to do his damage, he believes, and then basically at that stage, discontinued army. So not over-investing into any particular unit at this point. As you'll see later on in this game, that'll change quite a bit. So the Viper has decided his castle is too late, wants to instead add maybe just a few knights. Doesn't have to be a full transition, but maybe wants to see if he can get anything with a knight or two. And Tim's just going to hang back at home. Knows there could be knights somewhere in the area. Those 4 scouts are still around. And he's just going to hug this hill. So a lot of knight upgrades coming from Tim. He's going to go double stable. He's going to go very aggressive here. Double stable takes quite a bit of economy investment. As you can see, Tim seeding up more farms, has a ton of villagers on gold. That probably means he's not going to go up with the town center right away. And that could put him at a disadvantage later on in the game if the Viper decides to get a town center out early. Instead, we're going to see the castle. So we're going to see conquistadors versus knights, which is sometimes a hard... it's a hard game to play if you're Tim. Conquistadors are so good at hit and running. And it can be so efficient, you can keep your numbers up while you whittle away at the knights. And this is one of the hardest things to stop in Castle Age. How do you stop conquistadors? It's very difficult. Alright, here we go. Double stables pumping away for Tim. Tim has unfortunately got too many resources. 1,000 gold in the bank. Now this army is basically a throwaway army. You don't actually want to throw it away, but you want it to get its money worth, and then that's it. You don't want to overinvest into it. Tim does not know the castle is here yet. He's going to know in just a second. And there we go. Unfortunately, going to take too many hits from the castle. However, you have to keep in mind that Tim is completely walled, whereas the Viper is still kind of open. Towers are not going to do too much against knights. So Tim running around with his knights. Can't hit the stone, of course. Knows there are conquistadors in the area. And what do you do against conquistadors? 3 stables knights. It's very important at this stage that Tim keeps up his knight production. However, again, if the Viper wants to add another town center, as he has already done, could pull away an economy lead, because 3 stable knights is, of course, more expensive than 1 castle conquistadors. Take a look at the army up here. Tim's point of view. Got a mangonel here, it might take a little bit of a hit. Those archers are pretty useless against the knights, maybe could pick off a scout. Actually, these knights don't have any armor, so maybe you can pick off a scout or two, yeah. That's what I would try to do. And gonna take a big mangonel shot. But able to get 3 scouts, that's a pretty good trade. If you ask me. Him moving around the bottom side with his knights. And hopefully we'll be able to get a mangonel. Meanwhile, those conquistadors are on the wood line. Looks like no villagers went down in that particular scenario. And there are some knights waiting over here. Knights are going to pick off the mangonel. So far, a pretty even game. We had a small advantage for the Viper in the early game. The Viper really wasn't able to capitalize on that because Tim was putting pressure on with his archers and delaying that castle. Now that the castle's up, there are pretty sizable numbers of knights on the field to help defend. Back at Tim's base, still fully committed to 3 stable knights. Second town center coming up only about now. Knights are going to try to do a little bit of raiding. Get maybe 1 villager here. And these knights have good upgrades, so they can stay under the town center for a while. And this is pretty good. Look at Tim. He's raiding at 3 different spots. One in the town center on the top left, one in the top right. And these farms are idle because of these knights on the bottom. So normally you see the player with conquistadors really putting on the pressure, and here it's the exact opposite. Right now, military count 20 to 12. You always want to stay ahead in military count when you're going against conquistadors. And the Viper's really having quite a hard time with wood. As you can see, none of his villagers are actually taking wood. This wood is almost out. Meanwhile, back at home, Tim continues to mass knights. And stay only on 2 town centers. He's now got a 10 villager advantage because of his raiding. And this could be the game changer, though, for the Viper. Castle in the middle of his base will help prevent the raidings. Certainly, Tim is not going to want to go anywhere near this area. And that'll double Conquistador production as well. But right now, villager count, 10 ahead for Tim. Still going to try to raid here. The castle is barely out of range. Conquistadors will follow. And we've got the quick walls from the Viper. So that is a little play that might change the game. A lot of these knights are pretty low. Conquistador is going to move under the fire of the castle. And Tim is going to lose quite a few knights there. That's 4 knights, 5, 6, 7 knights. Might lose another one. However, still at the right side, he is continuing to raid. Tim has pretty much... he knows he's not really going to be able to catch the Conquistadors as long as they run away. However, the Conquistadors have to be massed up so they don't take a direct fight. And it's hard to be at 2 places at once for the Viper. The economy constantly being raided. Weirbill now coming in from Tim. Getting a monastery and a few monks out. Things are a little bit messy still at home. There's only one gold mine here, 1 gold mine here. The wood lines are kind of hard to take. But hey, this is Arabia. The Viper's been very distracted. He needs to reseed his, or he needs to rebuild his mining camp. And Tim only now getting bowsaw. So now is the part of the game where it might get a little bit more tough for Tim. He's done some great raiding so far. However, he's finding it increasingly difficult to raid the Viper. Now the Conquistadors are moving out, and Conquistadors can do tons of damage to Tim's economy, especially the wood lines. This wood line is completely exposed. This wood line is a little bit exposed, but the saturation on it is pretty poor as well. Luckily, Tim back at home. Still going fully on the gas with knight production. And in fact, he's even got this monk here to help heal up these knights. And in quite a few games that I've watched of him, he really makes good use out of his monks. He both goes for the relics early and also likes to heal his knights. So this is saving him tons of resources here. About maybe 30% of the HP is lost on these knights. If he's able to heal that up, that'll save him a lot of resources in the long run. And now the Viper is going to try to raid a bit at the bottom. Meanwhile, all of these knights are going to get healed up. In the north, at that 1 town center, I'm going to try to raid again. The Conquistadors are all in the south. They're not in the north to defend. And this is a particularly good raid as the villagers kind of get stuck on each other. So Tim maintaining that 10 villager lead. Despite only being at 2 town centers, remember. The Viper is on 3. It looks like the Viper has chewed a little bit of a hole through that wall. Tim is going to come in with his monks. Let's see if he's able to get a few conversions. Able to get 2. And the Viper is being too slow with his Conquistador. Is going to take a few extra hits when he shouldn't have. Tim with just a massive army now. Yeah, I checked. For this game, there were only 2 casters, I think, Dreams casted this tournament, and Fiage. It's going to run back. And now maybe Tim is thinking about the Castle Age. Hopefully is. Let's take a look at the Viper's base at home. So yeah, he's got a lot more Conquistadors than he previously has had. These are approaching scary numbers of Conquistadors, where the Viper may no longer fear those knights as much. If you have enough Conquistadors to one-shot Knights, that certainly is a game changer. And a third castle back at the base to help protect from the raidings once again. Tim going for those relics nice and early. And he's going to go with that big raid on the left side. Actually choosing to go back. Wonder why. It's a little interesting decision to me. It looks like Tim's getting ready to click up to the next age. And let's see what damage he could do with these Conquistadors. Tim is Kiss BB. He was playing under a Smurf this game. VH is the spectator. The Knight's going to run in under the castle. Conquistadors attacking the wood line here. Not really finding too much. And Conquistador's going to run back. However, this raid could be a little bit devastating. The castles help. Viper's being careful and running back his villagers early. However, Tim could lose a lot of knights in this raid as well. Going to go for the town center. If he can take out the town center, certainly will grant him a lot of villager kills. But has decided against it as he's going to lose too many knights. And that's really something he can't afford. So Knight's going to run back. And right now, Tim, not enough resources to click up the next age, but is really getting close. Let's check the Viper. The Viper's really low on all of the resources. And even has some idols in his economy. Still a lot of knights to be able to take this fight. You have to be very careful if you're the Viper. You just want to hit and run. You actually don't want to stand and take fights. And the Viper getting the husbandry upgrade, Tim got that earlier, so that really allows him to dictate these fights. And here we go. So many knights from Tim. Sometimes you like to make a different army, like a mixed army composition, because this certainly can leave you open if your opponent wants to, say, do a halb switch. Certainly the Viper knows that Conquistadors are not nearly as strong in the Imperial Age as they are in the Castle Age, so might want to do a tech switch. And the Viper's probably going to see this huge horde of knights. So let's see how he reacts to this. And as you can see, the Conquistador's not really as scared, able to one-shot the knights now. We're going to run back to be safe. So the Viper right now sees full investment into knights. Has built his second barracks of the game, going to build his third, and investing into the pikeman upgrade. Now, if you're Tim, you have a feeling that your opponent might be doing this. You're showing full knights. The Spanish, of course, get Cavalier, get Paladin, although it can be very expensive. So you might want to be starting to think of a transition army, whether that's elite skirmishers or hand cannons. Elite skirmishers would certainly be a faster transition. But so far, Tim's not really showing that. He's instead going to go 6 stables, full investment in knights. And we'll see how that plays out for him. And the Viper's switching into pikemen. So a lot of resources here are invested into knights for Tim. That's so much gold invested into knights. Certainly he can lose a lot of resources if he takes an engagement against the much more efficient pikeman and later halberdier. However, once again, Tim healing up all of his knights. He actually hasn't lost a lot of knights throughout this game. I know the KD is 35 to 53. A lot of that was the useless feudal army. Tim has used his gold pretty well this game. So if he decides to go into Paladin, that'll certainly be a very costly decision. But with all the gold that he saved this game, might be one that pays off. And once again, going to go back and heal all of those very weak knights. Tim moving on to one of his extra golds, I believe. Remember, he got those 3 relics early on, so that's additional gold income. Going to build a castle over on the right side, securing yet another additional gold. That's 2 additional gold mines for him. Now, if you're going to go down the paladin route, you absolutely need to take additional golds on the map. You're going to be losing as far as gold efficiency in most scenarios, especially if you're going against halberdier. So you need to be able to have enough gold to make that really worth it. You're always going to lose as far as gold efficiency, but hopefully you just have access to more gold than your opponent. And there we go, Paladin upgrade. Again, it's not an upgrade you see very often in 1 versus 1. However, I think, it does make sense, considering, well, how many Cavaliers he has out on the field. And how much gold income he has access to. Now, it's critical that he maintains access to this gold, because otherwise the Paladin is going to be a very expensive tech and might not pay itself off. If you lose all of your Cavaliers, then it's hard to gain back momentum against halberdier. So it's important that Tim is able to maintain control of this right side gold. And here we go, Paladin upgrade coming. This might be a window of opportunity for the Viper. The Paladin upgrade is a slow upgrade. The halberdier can do some serious damage against the Cavalier at this particular time. Supremacy even coming in. Small group of halberdier though, not very many. And this is an interesting fight if Tim decides to take it. He's certainly going to lose a lot of gold in it. Although he will get rid of a lot of the numbers of the halberdier. There you go, half the army going to the left. This could be a very costly fight. He's lost a lot of gold in this engagement. Lost at least, what, 10, 12 Cavalier? That could have been Paladins. So it looks like a little bit of the momentum's going into the Viper's side. He's now 800 points up in the score. That is a lot. There we go, Paladin upgrade is done. And now the Paladin's going to engage the halberdiers. There's no other units here to help take out the halberdiers. It just has to be Paladins. Trebuchet deploying onto the castle on the right of Tim. It's a critical stage of the game. Meanwhile, on the left side, a little bit of raiding going on. Tim, not surprisingly, has won this fight. His army is worth a lot more than the Vipers. However, he has lost a lot of gold. What you have to do is be able to finish the game relatively soon before your gold runs out, if you're going down this particular army composition. Castle's going to go to half HP, however. Tim should be able to save it. What the Viper needs to do, he needs a massive halberdier. He needs to just hold for a little bit as Tim exhausts all of his gold. Raiding on the left has been shut down. The Viper has moved out to, I believe, an extra gold mine. Or maybe that's his original, I'm not exactly sure. And still, yet more Paladin. Tim has essentially unlimited gold in this game because of those 3 relics, because he's taken the 2 extra golds in this map. And again, might choose to take this fight here. Needs to bring more Paladins, certainly. Once again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Paladins going down. It's about 400 gold. Paladin's moving over to the left side. Tim now at 192 population. The Viper at a healthy 180. 63 Paladins for Tim. 45 army for the Viper. However, the army is of much lesser quality. 4 relics now for Tim. He's gotten the 4th one. On the top, a little bit of raiding going on. Finally, Tim has decided to switch into a counter to the halberdier. And that answer is going to be the hand cannon. Hand cannon, again, does cost gold, unlike the skirmisher. I think it's going to be hand cannon at least. I see chemistry coming up. And raiding at the top, not really accomplishing too much. But right now, game pretty even. Scores are pretty even. Viper taking the Viper being taken off of this gold. Certainly very good for him. Castle did somehow go down to a trebuchet, though. I'm not sure exactly how that happened. Tim must have forgotten to repair his castle, and getting taken off of this gold is a pretty big deal. Tim, however, 2.5k gold in the bank. And finally, hand cannons able to make their way out. And Paladins should be able to catch out these elite conquistadors. So this is a very unusual style of play on an Arabia map. This would be much more typical of, say, a map like Black Forest, where you don't waste any resources. And you have the time to be able to get these upgrades, the chemistry and the paladin upgrade. This is the most expensive army composition the Spanish can make. And once again, Tim going to go straight on into the halberdier. Going to lose maybe a few paladins. What he needs one big push or one big raid to be able to end the game. See, the Viper's playing different and worse. The Viper was a beast at this time. At 2012, the Viper was still a beast. But so was Tim. Everyone has good and bad games. Always making excuses for the Viper. Once again, healing up all of his paladins. This is, what, the third time in this game he's done this. Saved him, you know, an uncountable amount of resources by doing that. Castle's built basically in the same position. It's still very important that he takes all of this gold. He's even building a town center towards the top where there's an extra stone. Stone is good for castles. Stone, you could also sell it for gold. It's something that you definitely need. There is one gold mine on the left, which neither player has probably found, as it's so much in the corner of the map. Tim is okay with this, just going to heal up his knights. Going to take one more fight here. This time the hand cannons are involved, so they should help out quite a bit against the halbs. There's Spanish hand cannons as well, they fire faster. And without any doubt, Tim is going to win this battle, although he's going to lose a little bit more gold in the end. So what the Viper has to do, he needs to replenish his halberdier numbers fairly quickly. And now he's investing into the Captram upgrade. Let's take a look at the Viper's gold count. Still fairly low. Has been basically unable to mine this gold due to the ratings. And again, remember, he's down one gold mine, since Tim has taken an extra gold. And has no relics in the bank, unlike Tim. And we'll check how much gold those relics have granted him over the course of the game at the very end of the game. Bombard Tower now being researched by Tim. As if this army composition wasn't expensive enough. Now we can add Bombard Towers, which of course cost gold as well. Castle probably going to do its job. These are Supremacy villagers, so they'll be okay. Gonna take yet another fight against the Halberdier. And of course, another win, but losing a few more paladins. But importantly, keeping the Viper off of his main gold. Or the gold he's mining right now. And Tim's gold count is relatively high. He's now at 200 population. I think this is the first time this game he's been at 200 population. So if you're at 200 population with an army of mostly paladins, now is your time to push. No point in building any more paladins, as you can't really build over the population limit. So now is the time to push. Viper massing most of his army towards his castle in the middle. Sacrificing the left side, he's not really able to contest this gold right now. Hopefully he'll be able to take it later on in the game. And where is, looks like Tim might be going the side either for stables or for bombard towers to maintain map control. Wow. Unusual on the left-hand side of the map. Usually you see bombard towers in the middle of the map. Certainly this hill would be a very good area for it. Once again, this is pretty funny. Tim's just going to heal up his paladins. These paladins are worth so much that it's worth sitting here and waiting for them to be healed. Tons of bombard towers coming up in the middle of the map. So now actually Tim is making a big dent into his gold. 1,500 left. Used to be at 2,500. Both players are at 200 population. However, the quality, again, of the army of Tim, much higher. This missionary, yeah, it's pretty cool. And finally, Tim has found the last gold mine. Look at all the extra resources he's taken. Taken the stone, taken the extra gold, taken the extra gold here. Starting to take this 1 gold over here. Now securing more map control with the towers. This whole game, Tim has had map control. And sure, those villagers are dead. However, Tim could just remake them and set them back to work on that stone. Villagers cost 50 food. You could lose quite a few of them. But it's much harder to buy stone. And nothing's going to get past this hill without running through the bombard towers. Luckily, it looks like the Viper has not seen this gold either. Yep, just waiting for his paladins to heal up. And what he could do right now, instead of wasting... oh my god, he's got 7,000 food. Instead of wasting resources on military, he can instead build these bombard towers, which don't cost any population space. Late heavy plow for... oh no, oh no! Late heavy plow for the Viper. That's a big mistake. And I think just Tim is waiting for these paladins to heal up before he does a big push. Siege ram done from the Viper, though. He's kind of pushing back. Hustler's done for Tim, so maybe eventually is thinking about the late game when he runs out of gold. And now Trebuchet's coming forward. The Viper might be overextending a little bit here. Maybe the Viper doesn't know how many paladins that Tim still has. The Viper is essentially with this Trebuchet, with these rams, forcing his opponent to attack. Maybe biting off a little bit too much that he could chew. And certainly a bit of waiting around. You know, it's kind of interesting. Every minute that Tim waits, he's still gathering more gold from those relics. Still gathering that gold on the left. It's not the sexiest way to win a game, but it might be effective. Looks like this might be the one push. Let's see if the hand cannons decide to come up. That's going to be a big loss of gold. Here comes the hand cannons. Trebuchet is now pressuring the castle on top of the hill. That castle is guaranteed to go down with all these defenses on this hill. And let's see if the down castle is going to be enough for Tim to make his push. Still producing a few paladins here and there. Both of them just camping. Well, the camping pays off for... it's been paying off for Tim. Again, with all that extra gold he's collecting. Feels like an AI game. Yeah. I decided to show you 3 AI games. Poor villager. Okay, so this is the big push of this game. Much higher quality of army for Tim. He's still got 2k gold in the bank. So we'll be able to replenish some of these paladins once they go down. Castles are moving forward to help take out that... Sorry, trebuchets are moving forward to take out the castle. And certainly Tim should be able to win this fight. And is it going to be worth losing all of this gold to win this fight? And the answer to that is probably a heck yes. Once this castle goes down, that'll open up ratings. And there's the GG. Tim going to win this fight. Going to lose most of his paladins in the meantime. However, has just enough gold to be able to replenish. And enough hand cannons to keep this push going. Tim will lose, the Viper will lose a lot of his military production buildings here. There's also some raiding going on the left and right side. Still, again, paladins, not Hussar. Paladins coming in on the right side. Viper's doing everything he can to get these rams under the trebuchets. Nice raid here on the left side. Population 175 to 145. And cannons still are certainly very strong. Bombard towers now coming in on the right side under the military production. It's very annoying. The Viper, of course, with 0 relics is unable to build siege ramps without using the market. Paladins pushing in on the left side. Tim! Taking his opponent's gold. There's only, what, 500 gold here, but that's still very useful. That's what, 8, 9 paladins. A few bombard towers. Very useful. There's the actual GGs and GG. So, theme of this game, efficiency. Look at the KD ratio. 500 to 250 almost. Tim healing up his units multiple times. In the very early game, deciding that scouts were not really worth the food investment, deciding archers were worth the food investment, and we saw both of those decisions pay off. Tim not losing a lot of knights in the Castle Age, maintaining his big bunch of knights, healing them up, not losing a lot of gold with respect to that, and then decided to go the Paladin upgrade, not taking too many bad fights against the Paladins, getting those 4 relics help, getting map control and all of the extra golds and stones on the map. You know, helped a ton, otherwise the strategy would not work. And then, finally, at the very end, taking one big fight, losing a lot of his gold units, but at the same time, enough to finish the game. And yeah, I hope you learned something from this game. And the importance of this game, this was a 2012 game. This was the game that actually decided the finals of the Masters of Arabia tournament. As someone said in the chat, this was the last game where the Viper did not dominate it. So after this was all the Viper in the tournaments. However, Tim was, of course, a legend during this time. And I hope this game did highlight that. So in the next game, we'll be analyzing a different theme of Tim's playstyle, some of which you probably saw in this game. And the theme we'll be analyzing is his defensive playstyle and his tendency to wall. See you then. Take a look at the achievements. That might be this series might be the series also where the "I grass your sister" was said, and of course a legend was made. If you don't know already, the reason why the Viper has grass as the beginning of every emote is because of the story where he had a big rivalry with Tim around this time, and Tim doesn't know English too well, so instead of saying something inappropriate, he said, "I grass your sister." So, that was pretty funny. Anyway, let's take a look at the military stats. Better KD. And again, the only reason that this works, army counts are the same. The only reason this works is because of this stat right here. Gold collected, double. Relic gold, 3,000 extra relic gold. That's the big difference in this game, in my opinion. Here's the timeline. The Viper winning a little bit in the early game, taking an early lead, then Tim. Then the Viper coming back a little bit, then all Tim.